So, first time doing this, I'm going to be painting this. I'm using chalk paint, Retique, and they always are, I've watched like every video I possibly can, so hopefully this will work. A little bit of water in a jar, and there we go. So I just put it in there, about 50-50. So I'm going to stir that one up. This was another tip I got. If you didn't go out and buy, those big brushes, which if I like this, I will buy some more. But like I said, this is my first time doing this. So if I hate it, why spend anywhere from around 30 bucks? You've seen the really high-end ones. I've seen a lot of them though online I can buy for like 10. So I might probably do that one. But the coolest tip I got was, these really cheapy brushes, to make them stiffer, just buy them and cut off the top. So that's what I did with that. I've tried spraying it down like they said, but when you actually mix your chalk paint 50-50, it's not really that necessary. I mean, I did a huge soaking on it. Now I'm just doing a proper mist, really. And the one thing I noticed when I saw everybody else doing this is their hands got ridiculously full of paint. So I'm gonna put some gloves on and then get to painting. Super liquidy. So I picked a dining room chair because I figure if it's absolutely wretched, I can recover the seats that I didn't like in the first place with fabric. But if this works, this is loads more affordable than getting the new fabric. And here we go. Okay, so this is day 2 and everything's dried and we're about to sand it, but I wanted to show you one little difference. On the first day, I tried 2 different techniques. They told us that, the best way to get the paint to go in is to really, really saturate whatever it is you're painting as far as the fabric. And I went back and brushed because it's one thing, but see how blotchy and just, it's no. And then these guys, I just lightly misted them and used really wet paint and a really wet brush, and it came off much more even. Now granted, I feel like I need to sand the second version a little bit more than the splotchy stained one. It feels a little softer, a little bit more like material, but I'm thinking, well, how many more layers of paint am I gonna have to do to achieve that effect? And honestly, if you didn't touch the first blotchy one, you would think, oh, that second one feels great. So that's my tip there, lesson learned. Don't oversaturate the fabric. I think that's a better way to go than over soaking the furniture, unless you like doing many coats and a day to dry for each time. I'm gonna pass on that. Anyway, so now to light sand, as they suggest. This is it's actually an old faithful sanding square. It's not very high grit. I think it's like a medium grit. I may even use some 220 sanding paper because this thing is so old and kind of out of it, but this is the ideal. Okay, sanded, wiped off, time to paint. Hi, so this is third day with this, and it is the third coat. For the most part, these chairs are looking at just some minor touch-ups, where I didn't get in the seam, except for the one splotchy one. I don't know how well the camera's gonna pick this up, but see how there's this just light area through here? Yeah, that's annoying. The rest are just, little seam things. That's all I'm gonna do. So basically it only took 2 coats if I had been more careful. My other tip though is also, like I said, don't oversaturate the chair. Don't make it sopping wet, because then you get those puddles and it doesn't go on smoothly. Missed it, yeah, wipe the water in, that's great, but you're just trying to get the fabric that's on top wet, not soaking the cushions down. Hey, so I'm really excited. I've gotten to my third, well, it was 2 full coats of paint, 1 day drying for each one, and then finally a retouch, not a lot of it, just, little things and touch-ups on my chairs for a 3rd coat. Now, some might say, hey, go for that 4th coat because they might want it darker, but I am thrilled to bits with this. That chair is still a little on the splotchy side, but I'm gonna try and see if having the wax, which I've never tried it before, I'm gonna try bare wax and see how it works. I've heard that might smooth that out, so I'm not too worried about it. But here we go. This is everything I've read about it. I can hopefully see an end result here. Another light sand. I'm not sure if I even needed that because it doesn't really feel, it feels like fabric. It's soft, it's great. It doesn't, goo. Wiping off that. And now, let's try this. Not a lot. You don't want to have it totally soaked into the brush. I'm just going to use the lid. And here we go. We're going to go in circular and straight line patterns. It's just to make sure it gets in. This is a new brush, Waverly brush. It's cost effective. It is losing little bristles, but that's because I only cured it once, which you're supposed to do it twice. And curing it means you rub it in, tap it, get some of the hairs out, and then you also use warm water and let it dry. You do that twice, and I only did it once. Smell-wise, this is kind of good. Kind of, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but it smells like cocoa or cocoa butter. It almost like it has a suntan waxy lotiony smell. It's not bad at all, considering all the other chemicals you work with. Okay, so what you're seeing me feeling for is it should, when you have the wax on in the right amount, your hand should just move smoothly across it. If you get to any part where it's like rough to get across, that means you don't have wax hair. If you get anything that's on a sticky side, you got too much wax. So we'll let it sit for 24 hours and see what we think. Hey, it's Margie. So have you been working really hard on chalk painting, some fabric, perhaps a piece of furniture, and you did everything you thought right, and then all of a sudden you put your wax on and it's drying real splotchy? Here's what may have happened, or at least in this situation. This was put on a chair, and I did all the things they said about, oh, make sure the fabric's really, really wet. Yeah, actually the fabric should be nicely wet, not very, very wet, because when you get the cushion too wet and it comes up to dry, it takes too long. And don't forget, if you're like myself and I'm doing these things outside because it's really, really messy, well, it's also very humid out here. So even though I had this dry for 2 days, it still wasn't completely dry. What happens is the water that's inside of the cushion, not the fabric, finally kind of comes up from the surface, and it takes the wax you would put down and it lifts it, and that's what's happening here. So that's why it's splotchy. But there's good news. I have figured out how to fix it. Once it's already been dry, once everything is completely dry now, you're going to go back through with a hair dryer. And mind you, you're not trying to burn this thing. This is wax. Wax melts easily. It gets warm again. You're going to rewarm this wax, and then you're going to rub it. This is just a shop towel, lint-free. You could use an old t-shirt if you'd like this to work as well. All you're doing is you are simply rewarming the wax so any excess can come off, or any that's needed can go back in now that the cushion itself is also dry. I'm going to fast forward this. Okay, so basically lessons learned. Make sure that when you do apply wax that you apply it when it is really truly dry. Also be aware of humidity and how it affects everything drying. It may take longer. And other lesson, also remember, this is just a regular hair dryer. This is not one of those melt off the paint stuff. So give it a rest every so often, and don't try to burn your fabric or anything like that. You're just you're trying to warm up wax so you can either rub it in or rub it off. And that will start to, I'm not completely done, but you get the idea. It has definitely, see how it's through the middle? It cut down those white blotches. It'll make all that hard work you put into it return and be great.